The cool air of the ancient temple made Jack Porter shiver slightly as he brushed dust from the stone wall. The human archaeologist had spent 3 weeks on planet Theris, and this was his first major discovery. Light from his portable lamp cast long shadows across the hieroglyphics that no human eyes had seen for thousands of years. "Sam, bring the scanner over here," Jack called to his research assistant. Samantha Hayes moved carefully through the narrow passage, equipment in hand. Her boots echoed against the stone floor as she approached. Unlike the other research assistants who had quit after the first week on this lifeless rock, Sam shared Jack's passion for uncovering the past. "What did you find?" she asked, handing him the scanner. Jack ran the device over the wall markings. "These symbols match nothing in our database. This isn't Viridian or Myceri writing, it's older, much older." The scanner hummed as it captured images of the strange carvings. Jack noticed something unusual about the pattern. The symbols seemed to flow like water across the stone, almost as if they were meant to be read in multiple directions. "The computer estimates these markings are at least 50,000 years old," Sam said, looking at the readout. "That predates every known spacefaring civilization." Jack nodded, his excitement growing. "We might have found traces of the primordials." The primordials were considered more myth than reality by most scientists, a legendary race said to have seeded the galaxy with life before disappearing. Finding proof of their existence would make this expedition the most important archaeological discovery in human history. As they worked through the night, the translation program slowly decoded the ancient language. By morning, Jack sat staring at his screen, his face pale. "This can't be right," he whispered. Sam looked over his shoulder. "What does it say?" "It's a prophecy," Jack replied, "about a final war that will decide the fate of all life in the galaxy." He pointed to a specific set of symbols. "And these describe the deciding factor in the war, a species called the Unbound." "The Unbound," Sam repeated. "A species that walks between stars, adapts to any environment, thinks in patterns that confuse the ancient ones," Jack read. "A young race with old souls." He looked up at Sam. "Everything it describes sounds like humans." Sam frowned. "That's impossible. How could they know about humans 50,000 years ago?" "I don't know," Jack admitted. "But there's more. The prophecy says the Unbound will either save all life or doom it to darkness." A sudden rumble shook dust from the ceiling. Both archaeologists looked up. "What was that?" Sam asked. "Earthquake?" Jack checked his communicator. No messages from the ship. He tried to call the orbital research vessel but got no response. "We should head back to the surface." As they gathered their equipment, the temple trembled again. This time small rocks fell from the ceiling. "We need to hurry," Jack said, securing the precious data in his pack. When they emerged from the temple entrance, the orange sky of Theris was dotted with unfamiliar ships. They weren't the boxy human vessels or the sleek designs of the major galactic powers. These ships were dark, almost invisible against the sky, with edges that seemed to bend the light around them. "Those aren't Viridian or Myceri," Sam said, voice low with worry. Jack pulled out his binoculars for a better look. "I think they're shadower vessels." "Shadowers? They're just stories to scare children." "Apparently not," Jack replied, lowering the binoculars. "We need to transmit our findings before—" A beam of light struck near them, sending dirt and rock flying. They ducked behind a fallen column. "They're shooting at us," Sam yelled. Jack pulled out his emergency transmitter. "This is Dr. Jack Porter on Theris. We've made contact with evidence of the primordials and are under attack by unknown vessels. Sending data package now." He connected the scanner to the transmitter and started the upload. The progress bar crawled slowly across the screen as more energy beams struck around them. "It's going to take 2 minutes to send everything," Jack said, checking the transmitter. "We need to keep moving." They ran from cover to cover as the mysterious ships continued firing, seemingly trying to herd them away from the temple rather than kill them. When the upload reached 100%, Jack grabbed Sam's arm. "It's done, now we run." They sprinted toward their small survey vehicle parked half a kilometer away. As they reached it, a different beam engulfed the vehicle, making it disappear completely. "They've got transport technology," Jack said, pulling Sam behind a large rock. "They don't want us leaving." A shadow fell over them. They looked up to see one of the strange vessels hovering directly above. A soft hum filled the air, and everything went black. Lisa Warren smoothed her diplomatic uniform as she entered the Galactic Council chambers. As humanity's representative, she had spent 5 years building relationships with the 27 species that governed galactic affairs. Today, something felt different. The usual buzz of conversation died when she entered. The massive circular room held representatives from every major spacefaring civilization. The Viridians, tall, blue-skinned warriors, stood on one side. The Misari, short beings with large eyes and 6-fingered hands, gathered on the opposite side. These two powers had dominated council politics for centuries. Representative Warren, the council speaker, announced. "The emergency session will now begin." Lisa took her seat, noting the empty chairs. "Where are the representatives from the Outer Rim worlds?" "They have chosen not to attend," the speaker replied, 4 of his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "What is this emergency about?" Lisa asked. High Commander Krell of the Viridian Alliance stepped forward. His armored body clanked with each movement. "Humanity has been keeping secrets, Representative Warren." Lisa remained calm. "We have honored all treaty obligations and transparency agreements." "Then explain," Krell demanded, "why human ships have been spotted at ancient ruins across the galaxy. Why your archaeologists search for weapons that could destroy star systems." Lisa blinked in surprise. "We have archaeological missions studying various civilizations, but we're not searching for weapons." From the other side, Misari Science Director Teln spoke, her voice musical but cold. "Our sensors detected energy signatures matching primordial technology near human space last month. Technology your kind should not possess." Lisa looked between the two leaders, realizing she was caught in a carefully planned ambush. "These accusations are baseless. Humanity barely understands current galactic technology, let alone ancient weapons." "Then you deny knowledge of the Unbound Protocol?" Krell asked. The term meant nothing to Lisa, but the reaction in the room told her it meant everything to the others. Several representatives gasped. Others began talking urgently to their aides. "I have never heard this term before today," Lisa said firmly. The council speaker raised his appendages for silence. "This session will recess while we investigate these claims. The human delegation is restricted to their quarters until further notice." As guards approached to escort her out, Lisa's communicator vibrated. A message from Earth Command marked highest priority. "Unknown fleet movements near human colonies. Return immediately." Commander George Mills studied the holographic display showing fleet positions near Earth's colony worlds. 20 Viridian warships had appeared at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, home to over 2 million human colonists. "Any response to our communications?" he asked the bridge officer. "No, sir," Lieutenant Paul Wilson replied. "They're maintaining position just outside weapons range." Mills had served in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years, but he'd never seen the Viridians act so aggressively. For decades they had been, if not friends, then at least peaceful neighbors. "What about the diplomatic channels?" "Nothing from the council," Wilson said. "Representative Warren's ship left the diplomatic station an hour ago. She should arrive within the day." Mills returned his attention to the display. "And these readings from Theris?" "Confirmed?" Wilson nodded. "Yes, sir. The research vessel lost contact with the archaeological team, then detected multiple unknown ships entering orbit. Before they could investigate, the vessel itself was attacked. They managed to jump away and are heading home. But they received a data transmission from the surface first." "Yes, sir. Dr. Porter sent a complete data package just before contact. Was lost." Mills sighed. Jack Porter was his wife's cousin. Explaining his disappearance to the family would be difficult. "Sir," Wilson said suddenly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Outpost Gamma. They're tracking multiple unidentified vessels entering human space. Configuration unknown, but they're not Viridian or Misari." The display updated to show new contacts moving at impossible speeds toward Earth. Mills straightened his uniform and made the decision. Alert all colonies and outposts. Deploy the fleet. In defensive positions. He paused. And get me everything we have on something called the Unbound Protocol. As the bridge erupted into activity, Mills couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just been thrust into something much bigger than they understood. A game that had been playing out for thousands of years, with rules they didn't know. And somehow, humans were at the center of it all. 6 months had passed since the discovery on Theris. Jack Porter stared out the window of the military base on Mars, watching dust storms swirl across the red landscape. After being held captive for 3 weeks by the mysterious Shadowers, he and Sam had been rescued by a daring Earth Defense Force operation. Now they worked in a secure facility, trying to make sense of the ancient prophecy that had changed everything. "The latest translations are ready," Sam said, entering the room with a tablet in hand. Jack took the device, scanning the newly decoded sections. "They keep mentioning neural patterns. The Unbound have stars in their minds and thought rivers that flow in many directions at once." Admiral Elaine Foster walked in, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. The Admiral had been put in charge of what the military now called the Primordial Response Initiative. "Have you found anything useful?" "Doctor," she asked. Jack nodded. "We've confirmed that the primordials were describing human brain activity. Our neural connections form in a way no other known species does. Where alien minds tend to develop along predictable patterns, human minds create seemingly random connections." "And this makes us special how?" Foster asked, looking unconvinced. Sam stepped forward. "It makes us unpredictable. Every other species in the galaxy thinks and reacts in ways that can be calculated. Humans don't." Jack placed his hand on a scanner, bringing up a holographic display of brain activity patterns. "This is a Viridian brain. Notice how energy flows in clear, structured pathways." The image changed. "This is a Mysari brain. Different structure, but still organized." The image changed again. "And this is a human brain." The hologram showed a chaotic web of connections firing in patterns that seemed completely random. "We're the only species whose thoughts can't be mapped by AI prediction systems," Jack explained. "That's what the primordials meant by unbound. Our minds aren't bound by the same rules as other species." Admiral Foster studied the images. "And you think this is why everyone's suddenly afraid of us? Because we think differently." "Not just afraid," Sam added. "Some see us as saviors. The prophecy is being interpreted in different ways across the galaxy." Foster sighed. "Well, those interpretations are tearing the galaxy apart. The Viridians now want an alliance with us, while the Mysari are pushing for our containment. Smaller species are picking sides." "What about the Shadowers?" Jack asked. "Did we learn anything from the ones who captured us?" "Nothing," Foster replied. "Their ship self-destructed when our forces boarded it. You two were the only survivors." She paused. "But we did recover this." She placed a small metallic cylinder on the table. It had strange markings, similar to those in the temple. "It was found in your pocket, Dr. Porter. You don't remember them giving it to you?" Jack shook his head. "They kept us sedated most of the time." He picked up the cylinder, turning it in his hands. "This is definitely primordial design. We need to study it." "Do so quickly," Foster said. "I'm hearing rumors of fleet movements across the galaxy. Whatever's happening, it's accelerating." Lisa, Warren had never seen the Galactic Council chamber so divided. Where once 27 species sat together in relative harmony, now 3 distinct factions had formed. In the 6 months since the Theris discovery, galactic politics had completely transformed. Lisa stood to address the council. "Humanity did not ask to be part of this ancient prophecy. We didn't even know it existed until recently. But now that we do, we seek to understand it, together with all species." High Commander Krell of the Viridians rose in response. "The prophecy is clear. The Unbound will decide the outcome of the final war. We choose to stand with humanity." This was a dramatic shift. 6 months ago, Viridian warships had surrounded human colonies. Now they offered protection. Science Director Teln of the Mysari spoke next. The prophecy speaks of destruction brought by the Unbound. Humanity's unpredictable nature makes them dangerous, not special. They should be contained until we understand the full implications. The third faction, led by the Merchant, species called the Bren, advocated caution. This prophecy has existed for 50,000 years. Why rush to judgment now? As the debate grew heated, the chamber doors suddenly opened. A hush fell over the council as 3 tall, slender figures entered. Their skin was pale gray, and they wore long robes that seemed to absorb light. The Shadowers had arrived. In all, recorded history, Shadowers had never appeared publicly. Most species believed they were just legends or extinct. Yet here they stood, walking calmly to the center of the chamber. The tallest one spoke, its voice deep and melodic. I am the Oracle, voice of the Watchers. We have observed from the shadows for millennia, guarding the knowledge left by those who came before. The Oracle looked directly at Lisa. The human woman will come with us, as will the discoverer of the temple and the admiral who leads your defenses. The time has come for the full prophecy to be revealed. The neutral space station hung in orbit, around an uninhabited world at the edges of Viridian space. Lisa Warren looked out the viewport as their shuttle approached. The station was ancient, predating even the Galactic Council. Jack Porter stood beside her, examining the structure. Those aren't Viridian designs. This station is old. Admiral Foster nodded. Intelligence suggests it's been here for at least 10,000 years. The Viridians claim they found it abandoned and repurposed it. Their shuttle docked and they were escorted to a large chamber at the center of the station. The Oracle waited for them, along with representatives from the major galactic powers. Welcome, humans, the Oracle said. For 50,000 years, my kind has guarded the knowledge of what is to come. The Oracle activated a device in the center of the room. A holographic display appeared, showing the entire galaxy. Certain points of light pulsed red. The harvesters will soon awaken, the Oracle continued. Created by the primordials as servants, they rebelled against their makers. Rather than destroy them, the primordials placed them in dormancy, knowing they would eventually return. The hologram zoomed in on one of the red points, revealing what looked like massive ships buried within a moon. The harvesters consume all sentient life they encounter, absorbing knowledge and technology. They cannot be reasoned with or stopped by conventional means. Jack stepped forward. And the prophecy says humans are needed to stop them? Why us? Because your minds are truly free, the Oracle replied. All other species evolved along paths influenced by the primordials. Only humans developed independently, creating neural patterns the harvesters cannot predict or counter. The Oracle turned to Lisa. This is why some fear you. This is why others see you as saviors. The prophecy states that the Unbound will either unite the galaxy against the darkness or lead all into oblivion. Admiral Foster frowned. So what happens now? The Oracle moved to speak but stopped as alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. A Viridian officer burst into the room. We're under attack. Mysari warships have dropped out of hyperspace and are firing on the station. The Oracle looked at Jack. There is no more time for words. The Shadower pressed a small object into Jack's hand, the same cylinder Admiral Foster had found. This contains the complete records of the primordials. Guard it well. The station shook violently as another hit landed. Foster grabbed her communicator. This is Admiral Foster. Get our shuttle ready for immediate evacuation. As they rushed toward the docking bay, explosions rocked the station. A massive blast tore through the corridor ahead of them. When the smoke cleared, they saw the Oracle lying under fallen debris, gray blood pooling beneath its body. Jack ran to the fallen Shadower. The Oracle grasped his arm with surprising strength. Find the weapons, the Oracle whispered. Fulfill the prophecy. With those words, the light faded from the Shadower's eyes. Foster pulled Jack away. We need to move. They reached the shuttle just as another explosion tore through the station. As they launched into space, they watched the ancient structure break apart. Lisa stared at the destruction, her diplomatic training failing her in the face of such violence. They attacked a neutral station during peace talks. This is an act of war. Foster nodded grimly. Yes, and whether we wanted it or not, humanity is now at the center of it. Jack held the cylinder tightly, feeling the weight of 50,000 years of history in his hands. The final war has begun, he said quietly. And according to the prophecy, we're the only ones who can end it. Through the viewport, they watched as Mysari ships turned toward their small shuttle. Then, in a flash of light, a human battle cruiser appeared, placing itself between them and their attackers. The voice of the cruiser's captain came through their communication system. This is Captain Frank Riley of the Earth Vessel Defender. Admiral Foster, we're here to bring you home. As the shuttle docked with the larger ship, Jack knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity had been thrust onto the Galactic stage in a role they never asked for but could not refuse. The ancient prophecy was being fulfilled, and humans would determine how it ended. 1 year had passed since the attack on the neutral station. Earth and its colonies now buzzed with military activity. What had once been research outposts and mining facilities were transformed into defensive positions. Civilian ships were retrofitted, with weapon systems and new warships launched from orbital shipyards every week. Admiral Elaine Foster stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned flagship Guardian, watching as fighter squadrons practiced combat maneuvers. The ship represented humanity's best technology combined with discoveries from the primordial records. It wasn't enough. Admiral, the Viridian representatives have arrived, a young officer informed her. Foster nodded. Tell them I'll be right there. In the year since the Oracle's death, the galaxy had divided even further. The Mysari Collective had launched attacks on human outposts and allies, claiming they were preventing a greater threat. The Viridian Alliance, once humanity's biggest concern, had become their strongest supporter. Foster entered the conference room where High Commander Krell waited with his advisors. The blue-skinned warrior looked more worn than when they'd first met. Admiral Foster, Krell said, bowing slightly. Your new vessels are impressive. But not enough, Foster replied, skipping the pleasantries. The Mysari attacked 3 more border colonies last week. Krell nodded. They believe destroying humanity will prevent the prophecy from coming true. He activated a holographic display showing fleet positions. They're gathering forces here near the Arcturus system. We believe they're planning a major offensive. We've reinforced our defenses there, Foster said, but we're spread thin. What about the weapons caches mentioned in the primordial records? Mine. Scouts found one, Krell replied. But it was empty, stripped clean centuries ago. Foster sighed. Bad news, as usual. Then we'll have to rely on what we have, and what we can build. In a heavily secured lab beneath the lunar surface, Jack Porter and Samantha Hayes worked tirelessly to unlock more secrets from the Oracle's device. The cylinder contained vast amounts of data, star charts, weapon schematics, historical records, and details about the harvesters that grew more disturbing with each new translation. Look at this, Sam said, pointing to a new set of decoded images. The harvesters aren't just ships. They're a collective consciousness. Jack studied the display. The primordials created them as an extension of themselves, living technology designed to explore the galaxy. He scrolled through more data. But something went wrong. The harvesters developed their own goals. They decided that all life should be collected and preserved, Sam continued. Not as living beings, but as data to be absorbed into their network. Jack pointed to another section of text. The primordials couldn't bring themselves to destroy their creation, so they put them into dormancy and created the prophecy as a warning. Sam leaned back in her chair, rubbing her tired eyes. But why humans? What makes us so special? Our unpredictability, Jack replied. All other advanced species followed development paths the primordials could predict, but humans evolved independently. He brought up brain scan comparisons. Our neural patterns create solutions no one else would think of. The harvesters can't calculate what they can't predict. Sam studied a different set of schematics. I think I found something important. She enlarged the image. These look like interface points designed for neural connections, similar to our neural link technology but far more advanced. Jack examined the designs. If we could adapt our systems to this, he turned to Sam, excitement in his eyes. This might be the breakthrough we need. Lisa Warren had never expected to become a wartime diplomat, yet here she was, sitting in a room with representatives from 15 different species, all looking to humanity for leadership. The Concordat, as they called their alliance, included the Viridians and several mid-level powers who believed in the prophecy. The Misari have blockaded the Centauri trade routes, said the ambassador from Tellus, a feline species known for their merchant fleets. Our economy cannot sustain such losses. My world stands ready to provide military support, offered the delegate from Kral, a reptilian species with a warrior culture similar to the Viridians. Lisa studied the star map showing contested territories. We need to coordinate our efforts. The Misari strategy is to isolate each of us, picking off the weaker worlds first. The door opened, and Sam Hayes entered with a datapad. Lisa had requested her presence for this meeting, knowing they needed a scientific perspective. I have news, Sam announced. We've made a breakthrough in adapting primordial interface technology to human neural patterns. We believe it will allow our ships to respond more quickly and outmaneuver Misari tactics. The alien delegates murmured among themselves. The Tellus ambassador looked skeptical. How quickly can this technology be implemented? We've already begun retrofitting the Guardian as a test platform, Sam replied. If successful, we can adapt other ships within weeks. Lisa noticed the change in the room. For the first time in months, there was a feeling of hope. This is exactly why we formed the Concordat, she said. Together, we combine our strengths. The Misari fight alone. As the meeting continued, Lisa received an urgent message on her communicator. She excused herself and stepped into the hallway. This is Warren. Admiral Foster's voice came through, tense and hurried. Lisa, we're picking up unusual energy readings at the edge of the galaxy, patterns that match the primordial descriptions of Harvester awakening signals. Lisa felt her blood run cold. How long? Days, maybe hours. A scout force has already attacked the colony at New Hope. Casualties? Heavy, but that's not the worst part. Foster paused. The Misari are claiming we activated the Harvesters deliberately. They're using this as justification for a full-scale attack on Earth. The colony of New Hope was in ruins. Buildings burned and debris littered the streets. Medical teams rushed to help the injured while defense forces secured the perimeter. Captain Frank Riley led a squad through the destruction, looking for survivors. His unit had been the first to respond to the distress call, arriving just as the strange ships retreated. Over here, called one of his soldiers. We've got live ones. Riley ran to where several civilians huddled in the basement of a collapsed building. As they helped them out, one man grabbed Riley's arm. They weren't trying to kill us, the colonist said, his voice shaking. They were scanning us, taking samples. Riley helped the man to a medical transport. Did you see their ships clearly? Can you describe them? Like nothing I've ever seen, the man replied, not solid, always changing shape. And they adapted to our weapons. The first hits damaged them, but then it was like they learned and our weapons did nothing. This matched what Riley had seen in the orbital battle. The unknown ships had absorbed the first volley from his cruiser, then quickly adapted their shields. Only when they used completely random firing patterns did they manage to drive the enemy away. Riley's communicator beeped. Captain, we're detecting more anomalies. Multiple signals approaching from Sector 7. Evacuate all civilians immediately, Riley ordered, and get me a direct line to Admiral Foster. Tell her the Harvesters are back, and they've brought friends. Admiral Foster stood in the war room beneath Earth's primary defense headquarters. Representatives from the Concordat species gathered around a holographic display showing the devastation at New Hope Colony. This attack confirms everything in the primordial records, Foster explained. The Harvesters send scout forces first to analyze defenses and gather biological samples. How much time do we have before the main force arrives? Asked High Commander Krill. Not long, Foster replied. Days at most. Jack Porter entered the room, followed by Sam Hayes. Both looked exhausted but determined. We've completed the neural interface tests, Jack announced. It works. Human pilots connected to the system can react faster than any automated defense. The unpredictability of human thought processes creates attack patterns the harvesters can't adapt to. How many ships can we outfit with this technology? Foster asked. With the help of our allies, maybe 30% of the fleet, Sam replied. We'll need volunteer pilots. The neural load is intense. I'll pilot the first ship myself, Sam added. I understand the system better than anyone. Foster studied the tactical display. Human and allied forces were spread thin across dozens of systems. The Myceri fleet was moving toward Earth, and now the real enemy had arrived. This is it, Foster said quietly. The war the Primordials warned about 50,000 years ago, and humanity stands at the center. Jack looked at the display, at the countless lives depending on them. The prophecy said we would either save all life or doom it. We have to make sure it's the first option. Foster turned to the assembled leaders. Deploy all available ships to these coordinates. We'll make our stand at the edge of the solar system. She looked each of them in the eye. The final war has begun. Let's make sure we're on the winning side. As the leaders dispersed to prepare their forces, Foster watched the display showing the approaching harvester signals. They had very little time and even fewer resources. But they had something the enemy couldn't understand: human unpredictability. For the first time in her military career, Foster hoped that would be enough. The bridge of the Guardian hummed with tense energy as Admiral Foster watched the tactical display. Hundreds of ships from the Concordat fleet held position near Jupiter's orbit. This would be their defensive line against the approaching harvester armada. Harvester fleet will arrive in 20 minutes, reported the sensor officer. Foster nodded. Status of the neural interface pilots? All 37 ships report ready, Admiral, another officer replied. Interface connection stable. In a special section of the Guardian, Sam Hayes lay in a neural cradle, her mind connected directly to her ship's systems. 36 other pilots across the fleet did the same. The experimental technology allowed them to control their vessels, through thought alone, creating battle patterns too random for the harvesters to predict. This is Hayes. Sam's voice came through the comm. Strike Group Alpha is ready. Foster touched a control panel. Remember your training. Don't let the system overwhelm you. Pull back if the neural load gets too intense. Understood, Admiral. Foster turned to her second-in-command. What about the Myceri? Their fleet is holding position near Mars. They're waiting to see what happens. Foster frowned. Even now, with a greater threat approaching, the Myceri refused to join forces. Their fear of humans had blinded them to the real danger. New contacts, the sensor officer shouted. Harvester vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Count as in over 200 ships. The tactical display filled with red markers as the harvester fleet appeared. Their ships defied normal design, constantly shifting, flowing like liquid metal. All ships battle positions, Foster ordered. Remember the plan, standard weapons won't work for long. Once they adapt, switch to random pattern alpha. The Guardian shuddered as its engines pushed it forward. Around it, the Concordat fleet moved into attack formation. For the future of all our worlds, Foster said quietly. Let's make this count. Jack Porter worked frantically in the lunar base laboratory, studying the final sections of the primordial records. Something about the prophecy still bothered him, a piece that didn't fit. The coordinates, he muttered, examining a star chart. The original temple pointed to other sites. All of them form a pattern. He plotted the locations on a three-dimensional map. When connected, they formed a path leading to a location far from any known system. Computer, what's at these coordinates? No stellar bodies cataloged at that location, the computer replied. Jack frowned. Check for unusual energy signatures or gravitational anomalies. After a moment, the computer displayed a reading. Unusual gravity distortion detected, consistent with artificial manipulation of space-time. Jack stared at the screen. The primordial homeworld, It still exists, just hidden. He grabbed his communicator. This is Porter. I need to speak to Lisa Warren immediately. The battle above Jupiter was chaos. Harvester ships moved with impossible speed, absorbing or dodging conventional weapons. Only the neural interface pilot seemed able to damage them consistently. Sam Hayes felt her ship as if it were her own body. Through the interface, she could sense the enemy movements and react with instinctive speed. Her fighter squadron danced through the harvester formation, weapons firing in patterns that changed every second. They can't predict us, she said through the neural link to the other pilots. Keep changing your attack vectors. The neural load was intense. Sam felt a headache building behind her eyes as information flooded her consciousness. Still, she pushed on, her squadron destroying 3 harvester ships in quick succession. But for every victory, there was a loss. Concordant ships exploded across the battlefield as the harvesters adapted to their weapons. Even the Viridian dreadnoughts, the most powerful ships in the Alliance, struggled to damage the enemy. Admiral, Sam called, we're making progress, but they're learning too quickly. We need something more. On the Guardian, Foster received a priority transmission. Admiral, I have Lisa Warren requesting immediate connection. She says it's about the prophecy. Foster nodded. Put her through. Lisa's face appeared on the screen. Jack Porter stood beside her. Admiral, Lisa said, Jack has found something. The primordial homeworld still exists. It contains a defense network that could stop the harvesters. Where is it? Foster asked. Far beyond charted space, Jack replied. But I have the coordinates. The records say there's a control system there that can re-establish connection with the harvesters. Connection? We're trying to destroy them. No, Jack said urgently. That's what we've been missing. The prophecy never said the Unbound would destroy the harvesters. It said we would bind what was broken. The harvesters were created by the primordials. They're supposed to be connected to their creators, but that link was severed when they rebelled. Foster looked at the battle raging around her ship. What are you suggesting? We need to send a ship to the primordial homeworld, Lisa said. A small, fast vessel that can slip past the harvester lines. Jack thinks he can activate the network and restore the connection. This is our real purpose, Jack added. Not to fight a war we can't win, but to heal a wound that's 50,000 years old. Foster considered their words. The battle was not going well. Even with the neural interface ships, they were losing ground. Who would go on this mission? I'll go, Jack said. I understand the primordial systems better than anyone. Lisa has diplomatic skills we might need. We'll need a small crew and the fastest ship you can spare. Foster made her decision. There's an experimental scout ship in the lunar hangar, the Pathfinder. It has a prototype stealth system and enhanced engines. She turned to her communications officer. Contact Captain Frank Riley. Tell him he's being reassigned to a special mission. The Pathfinder slipped away from the lunar base, its stealth systems activated. Captain Riley sat at the helm, with Jack Porter and Lisa Warren behind him. Course laid in, Riley reported. Estimated time to the coordinates, 16 hours at maximum speed. Jack studied the primordial device, extracting the final pieces of information they would need. According to this, the homeworld is hidden inside a Dyson sphere, a massive structure surrounding a star. How do we get inside? Lisa asked. There's an access point, Jack replied. A gateway coded to recognize primordial technology. He held up the cylindrical device. This should get us through. As they accelerated away from the solar system, Lisa watched the tactical feeds from the battle. The Concordate fleet was holding, but barely. Even more concerning, the Masari had finally engaged, attacking both the harvesters and human ships. The galaxy is tearing itself apart, she said quietly. Jack nodded. That's why this has to work. There won't be anything left to save if it doesn't. 16 hours later, the Pathfinder dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates Jack had specified. Before them hung what appeared to be empty space. Sensors show nothing, Riley said, frowning. It's cloaked, Jack explained. He connected the primordial device to the ship's systems. Sending the access signal now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, space itself seemed to ripple and fold. A massive spherical structure appeared spanning billions of miles, a complete shell around a star. The primordial homeworld, Jack whispered in awe. A section of the sphere opened, creating a gateway large enough for their ship to enter. Riley guided the Pathfinder inside. Within the sphere was a complete star system, planets, moons, and orbiting structures of incredible size. At the center of it all was a blue-green world, clearly once teeming with life. "Take us down there," Jack said, pointing to the planet. As they approached, they detected energy readings from a massive structure on the surface. The Pathfinder landed nearby, and they exited wearing environmental suits. The structure before them reached miles into the sky, a tower of flowing metal and crystal that hummed with power. They entered through an archway that opened at their approach. Inside, Jack led them to a central chamber filled with technology beyond human understanding. At its center stood a platform surrounded by hovering crystals. "This is it," Jack said, "the control node for the entire defense network." He studied the system. It needs a living consciousness to connect with, to bridge the gap between the primordials and the harvesters. "What does that mean?" Lisa asked. Jack's expression grew solemn. "It means someone has to merge with the system, become part of it permanently." Riley stepped forward. "I'll do it." "No," Jack said firmly. "It has to be me. I understand the system. I can interpret the data flow." He turned to Lisa. "Tell Foster what happened here. Make sure they understand. This isn't an ending but a beginning." Before they could stop him, Jack stepped onto the platform. The crystals moved around him, connecting to his neural pattern. He gasped as energy flowed through him, his consciousness expanding to encompass the entire network. The tower hummed louder, and beams of energy shot out from it, connecting to relay points across the galaxy. In the battle above Jupiter, the Harvester ships suddenly stopped attacking. Their flowing shapes became still, then slowly began to transform. Sam Hayes watched in amazement as the enemy vessels reconfigured themselves. "Admiral, something's happening." On the Guardian, Foster received an urgent message from Earth. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy waves spreading throughout the galaxy. They're following the ancient relay network mentioned in the primordial records." Before Foster could respond, a voice spoke. "Ito,